Here is a very simple pattern in tatting, made using the basic techniques of double stitches, rings, chains, picots, and joins. Each of these motifs are the same pattern, made in different sizes of thread. For this demonstration, I will use size 5 Elisa thread. One of the ways to wind a shuttle is to put the thread through the hole in the post. A large knot can keep it secure. I wind a shuttle counterclockwise, but do what works best for you. For this project, about 1.5 yards on the shuttle will be enough. Leave the thread coming continuously from the ball. To tat a ring, wrap the shuttle thread over your hand and over the finger that will be holding the thread in a pinch. Keep the rest of your fingers away from the pinch to form a working space. To do the first half of a double stitch, go under both threads, then back over and through the loop. Close the hand that's holding the circle of thread slightly to loosen the tension, and at the same time pull the shuttle thread tight to form a straight line. This will flip or transfer the stitch so it is formed from the thread on your hand, and the shuttle thread is the core sliding inside the stitch. Pinch that first half to keep it in place. The second half, leave the shuttle thread hang down, put the shuttle over, then under through the loop. Do the flip or transfer in the same way. Here is a completed double stitch. Beginners new to tatting will need to practice double stitches to develop a muscle memory. Then those stitches will become easy and the world of tatting patterns is ready to be explored. And here we have 2 double stitches. And this is the third one. Okay, now time for the picot. To make a picot, do the first half of a double stitch, leave a space, pinch to hold the space, then the second half, and now slide that completed double stitch next to the others, and there's your picot. Now that stitch that was just made to form the picot, that counts as 1 in the next part of the pattern. So here's number 2, and here's number 3. Okay. And starting another picot. There's 2, 3. When the working circle starts to get too small, pull under your thumb to make it bigger. And from time to time, you'll need to dangle the shuttle to remove the excess twist that builds up in the thread as you work. This is the third picot. There's 1 double stitch, 2, and 3. Now we have all the stitches and picots that we need for the ring. So now to close the ring, pull the shuttle thread to close the ring all the way up. There is a tatted ring bearing 3 picots. Now reverse work. We use the ball thread for tatting the chain. For a chain, just put the thread over your hand up to the little finger and around the little finger to hold for tension. Or you could use another finger, whatever works for you. The double stitches are made in exactly the same way. First half, and slide it right up against the previous tatting. Second half. Okay, there's a double stitch for the chain. There's 2 and 3, and so on. In this pattern, the chain has 7 double stitches, picot 7 double stitches. And when you finish tatting the chain, slide the stitches as close together as possible to make a nice firm chain. Then reverse work again. And next we'll tat another ring. Starting the second ring now, using the shuttle thread, be sure to slide that first half right up against the previous tatting, and there's the first double stitch. Now we have 3 double stitches of the second ring and are ready to join to the last picot of the first ring. To do that, pull a loop of the thread through the picot from the thread that's on your hand, slip the shuttle through that loop of thread you just pulled through the picot, and snug it back up nicely around the core thread, just as if it was a stitch. Now some people go on and don't count that as a stitch. What I like to do is make the second half of a double stitch there, and I do count the join as the first double stitch in the next part of the pattern. Whatever you decide to do, just be consistent. So there is the second ring. Close it up. I'll continue in the same way, until there are 5 rings and 5 chains. Now it's time to tat the final ring. Join to the picot of the previous ring. The final join is just like all the others, but instead of a third picot, join to the first picot of the first ring. Close the final ring. Now all the rings are joined together. Then reverse work and tat the final chain. Now the motif is all done except for finishing the ends. Leave enough thread out several inches so that you have room to work with for sewing. Then cut the thread. Take the tail that's the core thread and thread that through a needle. By untwisting the thread at the end and flattening it, it will be easier to thread the needle. Bring the needle through the little space between the first ring and the first chain. Then tie a double knot. Thread tails can be sewn under the caps of a few double stitches to hide them, unless you decide to leave the tails on and use them as a hanger. Notice which way the motif hangs. If you want it to hang from a different direction, or if you're going to use the motif for some other type of project, then you'll need to hide the ends. Go under the caps of the double stitches, first one way, then come back through the next one the other way, going back and forth. The thread does not need to be pulled super tight until all of the stitching is done. Go back and forth about 4 times. The thread is still visible right now, but hold on to the stitches and pull tightly. You'll feel the thread slide and it buries itself into the stitches. Then do the same for the other side. Now use a small sharp scissors and carefully trim off the tails. And there you have the finished motif.